journalists are not interested in telling the truth.
Yeah.
They're not interested in diving into the truth. They are only interested in selling a report. And it's a shame. Of course, there's a lot of serious people out there, and the serious both journalists and everything, but they usually don't end up in a position where the man in the street are able to get hold of what they're writing.
Greetings, Legion, and welcome to episode 284 of Into the Necrosphere. This week, you are traveling with me to Bergen, Norway, where I spent an hour face-to-face with the legendary Kristian Gaahl Espedal. The last time that he was on Into the Necrosphere was back on the historic episode 100 of the show. This time I had an opportunity to sit down with him in person. We spoke about a host of topics, including his views on modern society, parenting. We spoke about music. There's a lot of wine talk as well, so I will warn you, especially the first 15 minutes or so, if you think that wine is for nerds, you probably want to give that bit a skip. But for me personally, the conversation was everything that I had hoped it would be. Gaahl, especially when you meet him face to face, is a fantastic dude, and obviously I'm a massive fan of him on a personal and artistic level. So that is going to be coming your way very shortly. But before we get to that, as is our custom at the start of the podcast, we celebrate the spirit of independence with a bit of unsanctioned filth. Coming our way this week is a project called Black Flame Altar, spearheaded by the mangled minds of the sinister minister Karl Haikara, my fellow horseman of the podcasting apocalypse, and a man you should all be familiar with, the mighty Drugoth, who has been, of course, in his own band, Drugoth, as well as a host of others. They've got a new EP coming out at the end of this month entitled Ritual 1, and taken from that EP, and to get your juices flowing this week, this is a track called Dark Light of Eternity. absolutely, positively not for wimps. That was Dark Light of Eternity by Black Flame Altar, featuring the talents of Gaahl Interview, the Sinister Minister, my fellow horseman of the podcasting apocalypse, as well as the mighty Drugoth, who will be back on here for a news rant, I would hope, within no more than the next 4 weeks. So he's been on the podcast many times before, huge fan of his music. I think they've done something there that is raw, grim, and very much aligned to the values of the old guard, and I absolutely love it. Hope you guys did too. Make sure you check it out on Bandcamp. I'll post a link to their Bandcamp in the description to the podcast. And of course, a reminder, if you are new to the show, you might be new to the recording studio, new to the art of making music. If you have recorded something, you want me to hear it, drop me a line on intothenecrosphere@gmail.com. If I like what I hear, I will feature it on the show. If not, I'll pretend that I don't know you. Friends, another quick reminder, you should already be aware of this. I've already hinted at the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, but just in case you needed reminding, I am a card-carrying member, a sworn-in member of the Podcasting Cosa Nostra, otherwise known as the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, dedicated to filling your week from Monday to Sunday with the very best in podcasting entertainment, starting on a Monday with Horrorwolf 666, and that is hosted by the great Brandon Legion. On a Tuesday, there's yours truly casting hexes and slaying poses right here on Into the Necrosphere. I have got a fucking titanic lineup coming up in the course, or over the course of the next maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Next week, we've got Matt McNerney from Hex Vessel. The week after, the rebirth of Swarthalv and Gehenna. The week after, we've got Infernal from Disaster, and then the initial conversation that I had with Vincent Crowley from Acheron, that is now metastasized into something that may potentially be the start of a series. Either way, it's going to be absolutely fucking brilliant. So between now and when we hit that episode 300 milestone, which is going to be towards the back end of this year, you can be rest assured I'm going to be bringing you some of the best stuff I think I've ever done. Thank you very much for checking out the podcast, of course. Thank you very much for your support, because without it, none of this would be possible. But on now with the Horseman scheduling on a Wednesday, we've got your first double shot of the week. That comes your way courtesy of Sensei Mike Hill and his podcast, Everything Went Black, as well as the Middle Eastern marauder, my brother from another mother, Cheyenne from the band Trivax, and his podcast, Iblis Manifestations, which seems to be going from strength to strength. So thank you so much, by the way, for the fantastic response that you guys gave our Greg Harlan walkthrough video. We've got a bunch more collaborative stuff coming your way, maybe even something that could be taking place live and in person. Who knows? We might drop a little nugget over the next couple of weeks. On a Thursday, your second double shot, we've got Necromaniacs featuring the returning Mike Hill. He's joined by his co-hosts Outlaw Mike Scandado, as well as Professor Jeff Kashid. They review new and old horror movies without a shadow of a doubt. One of my favorite podcasts of the week. It is essential listening. Do not miss it. And then I mentioned the Sinister Minister, Gaahl Interview. Soul Knox comes your way on a Thursday, and it gives you a second dose on a Sunday. That is a journey through the dark, the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric, curated by a man who knows his shit. Always great value checking out Gaahl, and another man who will be on the podcast again, certainly as a guest on the News Rant at some point very soon. Speaking of the News Rant, that's coming up later on in the show, and I'm going to be listening to a whole bunch of stuff, answering your questions. We're going to have us a grand old time, but for right now, sit back and enjoy as I welcome back to Into the Necrosphere the legendary Gaahl.
Cheers. This is the most surreal thing on earth to think that I'm sitting drinking wine with Gaahl. But so let me ask you a question. Like, what are your thoughts on that wine? It was interesting watching you drink it and sort of in interpreting what you were tasting.
Yeah, but
I will not. I won't be offended if you say you don't like it, of course. But it's
Cabernet Sauvignon is not
your.
No, it's
No.
Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot have usually a very jammy blend character to it. And this is a lot of Cabernet Sauvignon. There's always exceptions. Like Merlot can be fantastic if it's produced by Anthony Torture. For some reason, he managed to turn that into something that's not this jam feel or plummy blend character. And I'm certain that I've come across several Cabernet Sauvignons that doesn't get this, but this definitely have the jamminess to it, but it might also be because of the heavy alcohol in it. Too much added sulfites. So you can taste the sulfites, and it's too strong in alcohol. You can smell the alcohol. Yeah, so it's not starting well.
All right, well, let's see how we progress.
Yeah, it's but of course it needs a bit of air. But I will. These things will still remain in the character of it. I don't feel a lot of emotion in this wine. It's well balanced by all means. It's not terrible in construction, but but it does have a lot of elements that I kind of
They don't work for you.
It's not what I would have bought.
Yeah.
So
all right. Well, next time I will remember Pinot Noir. Better
Pinot
option.
Noir is a decent grape. My favorite grapes, if I had to choose. But of course, it's difficult grapes to do a proper product out of it. Pulsar and Trousseau. Trousseau can be terrible if it's not produced right. Pulsar is a bit more easy. And part of this wine, Cabernet Franc, can also be one of my favorite grapes when it's done. But it's also can be terrible if it's not dealt with correctly. Kristian, Austrian producer, have a fantastic Cabernet Franc. But you need to let it age properly.
Yeah.
Then it's like if you find a bottle of Capital 15, drink it now. It will be fantastic. And you will be astonished how what a wine can turn into. Really, really fantastic.
What got you interested in wine?
Let's see. When I were around 17 or thereabouts, my body suddenly didn't like alcohol at all. And so I couldn't even drink low alcohol beer, like 2.5%, because I just tasted the alcohol.
Did you get an allergic reaction to it?
No, just that I only tasted the alcohol and tasted so I kind of probably and it lasted for almost a year. Of course, I tried to take a sip now and again, but then I came across a bottle of Macedonian Pinot Noir. And I can, this is something. And then I just started to focus on Pinot Noir and tried out and became a bit nerdy around that grape, and it evolved into different grapes and different stages. I still love Pinot Noir, still love fantastic, but that was my kind of. So from not being a wine drinker to kind of not stand alcohol at all, I met Pinot Noir and it turned me into a wine nerd. So Yeah.
When you say you turned into a wine nerd, what attracted you to it? Because I can tell you, so my story with wine, I never understood wine. I thought it tasted awful. I could never understand the idea of drinking something at room temperature. One day I was watching a god awful movie called Sideways. Watching the movie, and during the movie they talk a lot about drinking red wine, how to experience it, how to savor it. But halfway through the movie, there was a fire alarm, and the cinema got cleared out. So I'm standing outside. I'm like, I don't really want to go back in and watch the rest of this. But there's an Italian restaurant next door. I'm going to go in. I'm going to buy a glass of red wine, and I'm going to try it, and I'm going to do exactly what they said in the movie. And from that moment on, I was hooked. And I've been very fortunate that when I go to South Africa on holiday, we go to wine country, so you literally just drive down one stretch of road, and as you are passing, really, really high, top level vineyards, and you can go for wine tastings. So I started learning things there. A friend of mine's dad taught me an awful lot about it. But it's an incredible thing. It's like the deeper you get into it, the more your palate starts to evolve, and the more you start to understand it. So I'm curious as to where the attraction came for you.
Yeah, I just basically started to test out Pinot Noir, and then I started to notice the difference in the different regions, and so it got me into all other sorts of grapes, and but it started with just nerding around and exploring Pinot Noir. When I've gone through many stages of had my favorite of grapes up through and had periods where I've been enjoying things that I wouldn't touch today. but by all means, it's been many years of being very focused. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I loved to kind of just pinpoint year and region, soil, anything. And then I were lucky enough to come across a strange blend from Sicily, mainly Nello Mascalese, but also some whites in it. And I got really furious because I didn't understand this wine at all, but I liked it. But I didn't understand, and couldn't pinpoint anything apart from basically small elements of it. So I got very frustrated and angry because why do I like this crap? And so I had to leave the location basically on my own because I got frustrated, and since then I've approached wine in a very different way. And yeah, that's where I am now. So of the South African wine producers, at least the ones we have here available here in Norway, it's usually Mother Rock and Testalonga. That's but of course you have also a South African producer, but he moved away from South Africa and produced wine in Languedoc in France. So Matassa is the. They also have. He's also a good producer, but lately, the last 5 years, he used to be one of the most stable natural wine producers, but like the last couple of years, it's been very rugged terrain. It might be that the importers are too impatient with when they release the wines. Because that's a big issue in both on restaurants and all, but also it's something that really annoys me when it comes to that importers and the restaurants are not patient enough with allowing the wines to be mature when or ready to be served.
Yeah.
Because it gives the producers a bad name, and why would you return to something that you have a bad experience? So it's, but it is the marketing and this kind of laziness of not being willing to treat wine with respect. So that's a huge problem at the moment. That's an issue in the whole of Europe, I think. That it's wine is just floating about instead of being treated as what it can be.
Well, I'm sure I read somewhere that, and this may have been a year or two ago, where France was going to have to basically get rid of about 380,000 liters of wine.
Yeah.
Because of some law that had come in that meant that the wine was effectively, it couldn't be sold, so they were just going to get rid of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stupidity in bureaucracy in general. So
yeah.
So but it's difficult because at the end it's the wine producer that suffer.
Yeah. Well, as you say, if you have a bad experience with it, you're not going to go back to it.
Yeah, at least it's difficult for unless you have some sort of experience with things being changeable. But it is it's a big issue, and of course here in Norway we have so much restrictions when it comes to marketing alcohol and how you present it. So it's extra difficult, I think. And also one of the big issues is that the people that serve the wine don't necessarily know what they're serving. They don't educate everyone that enters in and sell the product, so they kind of just rely on maybe one person that's responsible for the wine, but they're very rarely treating their colleagues with or giving the colleagues the knowledge that they know or need to know to present it and serve it. So it's from being a serious market that it used to be. It's kind of lately it's become a really kind of just hedonistic, just drink. And if it doesn't behave, then it's meant to behave like this. It's instead of explaining why it's not behaving oddly, or if something oxidizes, it's not meant to oxidize unless it's. So it is. The bottle is not ready. So for me, it's frustrating at the moment how the wine industry is treated.
There's parallels to how the music industry works as well, and I mean
but the music industry has always been crappy in the sense of record labels want things to be released. They don't care if it's a good product or not. Well, of course, there's exceptions, but they are kind of more eager to you have to release it on this and this. But nothing good came out of it. So it's just the artists need to be stubborn and say, okay, then I don't work with it. But sadly, a lot of artists are so eager to kind of get a record deal, or that they sign a contract and then are obligated to, and then give out a lot of crappy albums just to get finish their contracts. So it's a terrible market. But you need to be stubborn.
You must have dealt a lot with that in the old days.
Yeah, but I've always been stubborn, so I've kind of come.
Oh,
I've managed to deal with it, but there's a lot of artists that are just trapped by bad deals.
And from what I've heard, without naming any names, I've heard of big name bands signed in the early 90s to record labels where they're still stuck in that same deal, and they're having to give up significant amounts of, merchandising, they're having to produce records in a certain time scale. So, but I wanted to ask you a question. I spoke to a person who I'll mention to you when we're not recording, and he was telling me a lot about early days of Norwegian black metal. One thing he said about you is when you started to become prolific, or when people started to get to know you in the scene, he said you had the reputation, and this is how he described you, as a very serious man. Now, it's interesting because outside observer, I spoke to you once in 2006. I spoke to you for episode 100 of my podcast, and we're speaking now. I know, we mentioned earlier that you're about to celebrate your birthday. You do strike me as being a lot more at peace. Is that fair to say?
I'm very happy with my existence.
Yeah.
So life is good. I only work with what I'm passionate about and collect good people, and make sure that we don't work with bad people. So only work with the good. So life is wonderful.
How did that evolution happen? Like, because if I think about the time period around Twilight of the Idols and Ad Miorum, Satanas Gloriam, there was Gaahl the agitator, Gaahl the conqueror, and actually I think it was very necessary what you were doing at that time, because I feel like it was a bit of a wake up call for black metal and for the scene. And then as time has gone on, you've as everyone does, but you've evolved. What do you think were the catalysts in getting you to the place that you are right now? If we're the sum of every decision we've ever taken up to this point in time, what do you think were some of those decisions that got you to where you are right now?
No, I don't know. It's we just follow what falls into the natural flow of things. I think of course a lot of the things. There are so many things circulating around the period, especially around Twilight of the Idols and Miorum, with kind of delayed responses to certain actions. So kind of many years that where the past is kind of holding, and then of course with colleagues that don't necessarily have are dealing in a good way with success or recognition. So a lot of tension just. There's many things that kind of affect your surroundings, but a lot of fantastic things came out of this this process. So it's kind of, but it were people just see 0.01% of what another person knows, basically, and especially artists. So they basically they just create an illusion, and media doesn't help because media love to kind of make things into sensation rather than truth. So my reality is not the reality that is portrayed in media. So media wants conflict. Media wants sensationalism.
And the media became, unfortunately, as the media commercial structure has changed, they became more incentivized to go after sensationalism. You know, even the way that headlines are written on, you know, website articles, they're incentivizing you to click because they'll write something completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, let's say, you know, Jackie Spread from Into the Necrosphere just did X. You know, this is why it's the worst thing to ever happen to podcasting, something like that. So they shape the opinion before they've even presented the narrative.
Yeah, they're not interested in telling. Journalists are not interested in telling the truth.
Yeah.
They're not interested in diving into the truth. They are only interested in selling a report, and it's a shame. Of course, there's a lot of serious people out there, and the serious, both journalists and everything, but they usually don't end up in a position where the man in the street are able to get hold of what they're writing. So there are, of course, I do observe that certain countries are better at this than necessarily what you find in. Norway is not one of them. We do, but you do have some half-serious journalistic skills, but it's compared to what. Yeah, at the moment, I don't think the world has been in this crappy condition when it comes to reflecting or trying to depict reality. Media is the same as the selfies that people take, kind of only focused on looking at their own reflection. They're not interested in diving into and telling observations. It's a strange development.
Everything has become very carefully curated and very subjective to the person who's doing the curation. You know, you mentioned about reality being subjective. It has become so bad. You can present literal, you know, camera footage of something happening to somebody, and if their bias doesn't validate their belief in that, it's as though their brain just disconnects. And most people, their brain just disconnects and they ignore it completely.
Yeah, that's. I wonder how it will affect the future generations. When you, as a parent, walk around and are more focused on taking pictures of yourself and your kid rather than paying attention to what the kid observes and what it will do with one's empathic skills, and so we'll see what happens in a few generations. It might. Usually children and youth have a tendency to wake up the grumpy grown-ups and create some sort of reality. But it will be interesting to see how this empathic reaction, what will happen there, because when people are not children look at you, and when you don't look at the child and communicate with it, you're more looking more at your own mirror than how this will affect the ability to kind of maintain empathy. Because empathy is one of the strongholds of humanity in itself. So I'm not much focused on humanity, but it's still kind of if you want the world to go around and things not to turn into the insanity that you can see around the powerful energies or the ones that want power, which is kind of there's a lot of men in power at the moment that kind of have no skills on empathics, and how are you supposed to run and make rules and represent if you don't have an empathic skill? That's this is one of the things that I think might be the danger spots. But you also already see it in media, that the media is the ones that are supposed to kind of present reality to they are already failing in communicating. So it's basically just left to the artists. Artists are and their insane world, but artists are observers. So art is a very important part of it. Of course, there's a lot of kind of just people think it's important to sell art. It's important to observe art. It's of course it's good for the artist to sell because it kind of keep them alive. But it's the importance of art is basically to give a perspective of observation.
Yeah, to capture their perspective at a particular point in time. You mentioned parenting, and something that I learned as a parent that to me was one of the most eye-opening moments I had as a parent. And I think this is one of the things that's lost in modern society. Your job as a parent is not to be your child's friend. It's to teach your child, it's to train your child how to be an adult.
Yeah, or to allow the child to become self. It's part of teaching, but the child teach itself in many ways. But
Yeah.
I think it's important that one gives the opportunity to know for a child to know that I am what I am.
Yeah. Well, and in any good, I think, healthy mentoring relationship, you do help that individual find their strengths and find their. Are you tapping out?
Oh yeah, it's killed with sulfites.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Next time I will remember Pinot Noir.
But this has nothing to do with the blend. It's basically just because it's killed with
Too much
chemicals.
Too much sulfites.
Yeah. It's.
I never knew anything about natural wine until I spoke to you, and then I started trying natural wine where I could find it. It's not really something that there's a huge amount of in South Africa. So in South Africa, they do. There's a degree of biodynamic farming, and there's they. Like this is handcrafted, for example, but as you say, there's too much sulfites in it. But there's not really many natural wine producers in South Africa, if any that I'm aware of at all.
Testalonga, Mother Rock, both of them are natural wine.
Well, we're going to be there in December again, so we'll check it out.
You do find they do add a bit of sulfites, sadly, but it doesn't kill. They don't kill the wine with it's not like this, which is a 0-0 where there's nothing added, nothing removed. So there's yeah, it's a huge difference between that and this.
Would you mind if I, when I'm done here, if I had a taste of that?
Please have a glass.
I'll give it a try. Now, just getting back to the mentoring thing, I think as a mentor, an effective mentor and a mentor that's going about doing it the right way, they do find that individual strengths and help them actualize in what they're going to be best at. If I think about it from a work perspective, I do a job where I'm managing a lot of different people, and I've always said to them, my view is, if you're doing what you're best at doing, or what you're happiest doing, you're going to be the best at doing it in that position. So you always play to your strengths. I think there's something similar to that with parenting. If you push a child, you see these parents that push children down a particular avenue because it's important to them. It's not necessarily important or healthy for the child.
Yeah, it's yeah. Many societies have taught their population to think that what the neighbor thinks of you is more important than what you think of yourself. So that's basically the effect of what that people think, that you have to become a doctor to be a success. I've met a lot of hobos that are way more ahead mind-wise than any educated. They might have gold, but their mind is not. They don't own their own minds. So yeah, you choose what you choose. So.
What was, as we're talking about it, what were some of who were some of the mentors or the influential figures in your life when you were growing up?
No, I don't know. I've just roamed about. Yeah, but I've been lucky enough to have. I have really good parents that have allowed me to be just become myself. Not directed me in any direction. Just allowed me to be the stubborn, strong-willed character that I am, and no limitations to what you do is what you do. So it's so when I picked my parents, I picked good.
Yeah.
In case I picked them.
Yeah.
I were given really excellent parents. Really kind hearts.
Did that independence and that stubbornness, was it something that you wrestled with when you grew up?
Of course, you can be stubborn. People often meet conflicts,
Meet resistance.
Yeah, but that's. But I feel that it's. I think of myself as 3.5 years old, and I like the stubbornness and determination of a 3.5-year-old. They know of their own existence, and what they do because they want to do it.
Yeah.
And so it's yeah, one of the ages that I choose to be.
So if we talk about music and about the most recent Gaahl's Wyrd, it was interesting for me to hear the progression from Ghost Invited to Braiding the Stories. Ghost Invited, to me, both records I loved. Ghost Invited had this it felt like an incredibly masculine energy, especially early on in the album. It's got the word conquering comes to mind when I hear it. It's a personal triumph to me, that album. Braiding the Stories is this really beautiful meditative record. What was your thoughts going into the album? And I remember you saying to me when we spoke on episode 100, the way that you approach doing vocals and doing lyrics when you go into the studio. Did you change anything about the way that you approached this album?
Probably, but not drastically. It's when you work with a conceptual idea, so you have a topic that you dive into without under. You don't need to point out what the topic is, but you do have a complete idea of what you're telling and want to tell. People think maybe that people need to tell things to others, but when I create it, it's things that I tell to myself. That's it's so. It's but the topic decides basically where you go, and this time around we ended up with approaching something that's not necessarily physical, or have like Ghost Invited. There's a lot of this becoming element, and of course that's a physical element, while we have turned into just the existence of what's inside the dreamscape, and without limiting it in the sense of, okay, dreams just means dreams. It's kind of it's a full universe in itself. But it's it might be a softer album. I sometimes feel that I lack a bit of the emotion, but that might be because it's not as physical as some of the more emotional songs on Gastir. I never try to. I never sing from a human point of view. If it might sound insane since we are in human form, but it's it's fine to be insane. That's one of the lovely things that 3.5-year-olds can be.
Yeah.
But we, but I've never had the principle of trying to explain a human condition or anything. I'm talking about what's existence in itself, and like the pop industry and the rap industry and all that, they have an extreme eagerness of telling about themselves and I say a lot of I, but I don't say I in the sense of me. I say I in the sense of being, but not necessarily human. It's I try to just tell things from existence point of view, not anything that needs to be manifested in a living or physical form.
I think what my observation has been, especially of the two Wyrd albums, I think that's why I like it so much. But I do feel this has been something that's been consistent in your discography. It's the ability that you have to break the facade between the artist and the expression of the art. Like when you mentioned pop music and hip hop and stuff like that, the facade is like concrete. Like if I envision it, it's like it's like concrete, and there's not everything is coordinated, preordained, managed by multiple people. Whereas here, with what you do, and especially the vocal performance on Braiding the Stories, it feels like true self-expression.
Yeah, it's of course on Braiding the Stories. I've also Ola, the one that basically the main co-creator in creating the landscape that we do. It's he's a very emotional, not necessarily emotional character. He is also that, but the emotional character to the surroundings. But it's also extremely emotional when it comes to how he approach music. We are very different, but we have one similarity, and that is that I think we create we create with emotion as the basis of what we tell or what we put out there. And on this album, because I feel maybe he earlier on he might have tried to create something that were more expected, and so this time he also did a lot of. We had a lot of songs to choose from, and when I kind of went through, finally sat down and went through everything, and picked out the different tracks that I chose to work with and put into this. I did have that as in mind that I want to make sure that where I feel Ola is most comfortable with the expression, where I feel that Ola is most present in the songs where I feel that he is being more what he wants to be. So that's the tracks that I've picked out, basically. I don't know if I'm right, because I haven't asked him. but it's only my observation of him and the way I know him, and so that's how I approach it. And then so I feel it's a really good end result to the whole thing. Of course, it's something that I finished with a year ago, so it's difficult to sit here and talk about something that I'm deep into the production of something else. So I'm kind of my mind is not in that release, because it's kind of 1 year ago and I'm in a completely different setting now. But if I speak of it as the distance that I do, it is the basis of it is that I wanted to bring forth where I think Ole is brings in most of himself, but also his emotional energies. So
something that struck me about the album as well, and my final question on Wyrd, your singing voice on this particular record sounds so much more confident and so much bigger, so much bolder.
Yeah, it's but it's yeah, of course we get it's I just try to put I know that I can do anything in a way, even though I don't know how I do it. I don't know anything, but I know I can do anything. So it's and of course me and Eva have gotten to communicate really well. So it is easier for me to kind of relax in the work process together with Eva, which is the engineer and co-producer with Godspeed. The first, even though I've known Eva for a long time, but I've only known him as either the private person and Eva the musician drummer. And then when I started to work with him on Gastier, it were a bit of a it took a while before we started to he started to understand my work process, and because I'm not the typical I can enter studio and just sit there and say, okay, I'll it's a waste of money, but then again I don't care about these things. So but it's you have to grow into the situation where you need to be comfortable in the space that you are, and you need to have a decent dialogue with the ones that work with you. And Eva is me and Eva have become really, it's really easy for me to work with him. He is, and it's also good to have someone that you can spar, kind of get a philosophical you tell the conceptual ideas, and you tell this song we will approach this, and then you need someone to reflect on if it's understandable. And so he's huge. He's a very important part of what Godspeed is, even though it's not part of the band. I still consider him to be so, because we've gotten to understand and work really well together. So,
would you say he's one of the most productive relationships that you've had in your time in this music? I mean, you've worked with so many different people.
Personally, the one I've still work with, that I worked the longest with, is Stian in Trelldom.
Yeah.
But he joined Trelldom in I don't remember exact time of year, but in '95 when I kicked out everyone else. I think I kicked out everyone that were from the foundation of because they started to argue, and then I don't yeah, so I threw them out, and I worked quite a bit alone for just back home in Espedal, and then I don't remember exactly how I connected again with Stian, but I think I remember Stian asked for my autograph at one point, and then he was probably just 12 or so at that time, but he joined Trelldom when he were about 15, and we worked not necessarily close, but we worked and we still work together. So he's kind of been long, and what we do kind of, it's almost telepathic in the sense of when we are ready to kind of go into a new process. It's we probably talk to each other maybe 5 times a year, so unless it's in a work process, and but still, I think he is one of the most important. Of course, It's been a lot of lovely work processes with people that I don't want to work with anymore, but that I have worked with. I think the one that I'm most comfortable working with, or experience-wise, in the sense that we really kind of can just is Aina from Baldur. It's a really easy work process, basically, with just. But I think that has to do that we have this. Our ideas are not physical manifestations, so we kind of just live in half esoteric space. But I feel that I work really well with Lindy Fay. First, also kind of a bit out there. It's I've worked with a lot of fantastic people and still do, and none of the work connections are broken up in a way, but we everything at its time. Nothing is written in any form of scripture, so it's not written in water either, so you never know what happens tomorrow. But I've kind of worked with so many excellent people. At the moment, I'm working in studio with Putten again, recording the vocals for the upcoming Trelldom album. During the finishing states of it. So, and it's been very good to work with him again. It's 20 years since the last time, and now he's 75 years old. So we work shorter hours, not 6 hours that I normally would do. That's kind of the max you would work in a studio, because you start to hear stupid things if you work with sound for too long. So we've kind of shortened the days into maybe 4 efficient hours. And that has to do with we work a bit slower than and our heads and ears are made filled with too much, and we easily get confused when we start to hear things that are actually not there. You don't want to work that. It's but it's really good to work with him, because we very determined in the way we kind of end up with and always kind of reflecting on every single detail. I love working. It's not things might be half accidental, but they don't end up accidental, because you work them out to be complete and put them into this full energy.
I have one question for you about Trelldom, particularly around Tilmina. Because that was, to me, that's an album that still means a lot to me. I feel, one of the, if I think about black metal, one of the first riffs, one of the first 2 melodies that come to mind is the opener of that album. Like, it is such a powerful, just like a fist slammed down on a table.
Yeah.
What are your memories of that record?
Oh, I don't carry memories. Not of any. I haven't heard that album since I released it.
Really?
Yeah. So I know the songs, but I haven't listened to that album. I don't listen to music after I release it. So I might listen to an album until the release date, because you can then notice something and then you're not allowed to release it. Because of but as soon as it's out,
it's done.
Then it's it hasn't anything to do with me anymore. It's I know, of course, the songs, but it's not something that I would listen to.
It's interesting what you say there, but it doesn't have anything to do with you anymore, because I've heard other people talk about music as something that you kind of give away. So that once it gets released, it no longer belongs to you, it belongs to whoever is listening to it. Is that the way that you see it as well?
Not necessarily, but maybe. It's it's not my universe. So it's I'm focused on what I do tomorrow.
Yeah. And you've got the new Trelldom album coming up, as you say, because you're working on that.
Fantastic. I love that we've managed to bring in Revocation on bass this time. He's the one that did helped us out live on the few shows that we've done. And so now we have a extra dimension to it. So I love working with Stian, fantastic musician. Kenneth Kapstad, fantastic musician. Kjetil Møster, fantastic musician. And now Erik Øyen, also fantastic musician. It's kind of, I would be happy just to listen to the instruments just on their own. They wouldn't need to play together. It would still be interesting. So it's a very, it's a bit difficult to do vocals when you kind of enter a studio and you're just sitting there and get distracted because you get hooked up in just one of the other instruments and just and have to listen to that for a while and then return to focus. But it's now it's I hope we'll manage to put it together to be but it's a pleasure to work with people that work so well together but still have such a capacity of being creative and putting their own creative effort into things without colliding and becoming a self-centered or need to show themselves or what they can do. They kind of just blend together like one unit without losing their identity. It's an honor to work with within this element.
I was going to ask you, the phrase is iron sharpens iron. So when you're around these excellent musicians and musicians that you respect and that you have such admiration for, does that bring out the best in you, you think?
I like to think it's fantastic to be able to be the weakest link, because that's where the chain will break. And if so, you kind of control a bit of what's needed to be done. So I think it might bring something good, but of course, one of the things that I like to be invisible in many ways. So to be able to kind of strip away this the things that I only need to fill in the things that I feel is necessary. Sometimes it's necessary to fill in a lot of things, but when you have the opportunity to kind of just allow yourself to just exist within something greater or great I think that's a lovely position to be in, because you don't need to do more than as long as you can focus and do the conceptual idea, and to be able to kind of not be present is a fantastic position to be in. It's
Well,
Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much for your time. This has been such an enjoyable conversation. I'm glad we were able to share some wine, but next time I'll bring you something that's more your taste, more your speed.
yeah, it's a lot of there's so many fantastic things out there, and there's so many terrible things out there. That's someone loved the terrible as well.
Well, thank you so much. Cheers.
Time and Timeless Timeline, a perfect track to cap off a really fun conversation. The band, of course, unmistakably Wyrd, taken from their sophomore album, Braiding the Stories, out on Season of Mist earlier this year. Bandcamp link in the description. As always, buy yourself some music. Let Wyrd know who it was who sent you. And a huge thank you to my guest, Kristian Gaahl Espedal, a true legend and an icon, and as it turned out, especially when you meet him face to face, a hell of a nice guy, and a guy who is surprisingly funny as well. He has this very subtle sense of humor that, you know, there was some of the conversation that we had off camera, I think really came out. Just the nicest guy. Also, big shout out and a thank you to his partner, Robin, for being so welcoming and so inviting when we arrived at the gallery. We spent some time talking to him. I would have loved to have spent a bit more time there and, you know, gotten to take a look at some of the art pieces that were on display. But unfortunately, we had a couple of other things that we needed to to do that evening, and also I didn't want to outwear my welcome. But who knows? That might be on the cards for our next trip to Bergen. Either way, this was a conversation that I loved. I did warn you guys about that wine talk. So for those of you that went, this is 15 minutes worth of talking about red wine, get to the music already. There's a skip button for a reason, but equally, you guys need to culture yourself. Right, that is done and dusted. Time now for the news rant, but first a little public service announcement. If you believe that romantic black metal is a subgenre that should be taken seriously, then dry off your tears, grab your box of Kleenex, head to the nearest fucking septic tank, stick your head inside and hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
Round them up for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
All right, my friends, let's get this fucking show on the road. We kick off on metalstorm.net. As always, the finest metal news website in all the land. We're going to listen to some music. I will answer a couple of your questions. We're going to talk some shit, and we're going to have us a grand old time. The first headline that is grabbing my attention, no song actually on this one, but I thought I should mention it, if only for the fact that I am an extraordinarily large fan of Kirk Windstein. As you should all know, I'm a massive fan of Crowbar. I know many of you guys share that view. He has just announced that he will be releasing his second solo album, and it is due to be called Ethereal Waves. Pretty nice album cover as well. No additional details on when it's going to be coming out, but safe to say, Kirk has been a busy man. I do know that there was an article released on the Democrats' Guide to Rock Music, Blabbermouth, a couple of days ago that suggested that Down are about halfway into tracking their new release. I can't recall whether or not it's going to be an album or an EP, but they're doing something new. He's obviously busy with Sun Don't Shine, which is the project that he does with Kenny Hickey and Josh Kelly from Typo Negative, or at least formerly from Typo Negative. No word yet on them putting out a new album. They've put out those 3 singles, but you can be assured something's in the works. And then he's about 3 years away from the last Crowbar record, and he tends to do Crowbar albums in kind of 4 to 5 year bursts. So work must almost surely be starting on a new Crowbar record at some point. So yeah, Kirk's a busy man. One thing I'll say though about that first Kirk solo album, Dreams in Motion, that came out in 2020, it was a bit of a missed opportunity, I felt. I always thought that, I'd always hoped that if he did something that was a solo record, we would hear maybe a few different things. I mean, he would color up outside the lines a bit more than he has done on, or than he ended up doing, I should say. And when I say coloring outside the lines, what I would love to hear him do is something like, if you listen to Down 2, there's a song called Where I'm Going, which is this incredible acoustic song that he does. Now, obviously, he's got Phil singing on that, but like I can imagine him doing something like that himself, doing it exceptionally well. And to me, that would be that would be something cool to do if you're going to do something outside of Crowbar. A lot of what ended up on Dreams of Motion, in my opinion, felt like offcuts from Crowbar. It felt like Crowbar songs that weren't good enough to make the grade for Zero and Below, and they ended up, or potentially even The Serpent Only Lies, which came out in 2016, and they ended up on that solo record. It's kind of like the Sakis Tolis solo material. Different genre, but similar principle. A lot of what has ended up on the Sakis solo record, solo records now, I think he's about to put out a second one, or has already put out a second one. It just feels like throwaway ideas that, were being written potentially for Rotten Christ, or with Rotten Christ in mind. And for whatever reason, they just didn't quite cut the mustard. So I do hope that whatever he does on the second record, I hope that he's a little bit more, he lets the brakes off a little bit when it comes to creativity. Either way, what I'm actually looking forward to that he's busy doing more than anything else is Sun Don't Shine. Anything that the Typo Negative guys get involved in, I've been keen to hear. I have enjoyed the singles that they've put out so far. When they were still called I Am, that single was pretty good as well. So yeah, very, very curious to hear what that's going to turn out like. On a full length, long form record, on a long player. If only to date myself. Sad news as well. I do want to get this out the way because I think it should be mentioned. Jill Listen, who was the bassist and vocalist for the band Funerus, she passed away over the weekend. I never knew Jill, but we had, by the looks of things, plenty of social media connections in common. I saw a lot of people with very personal posts, all weekend long after the news broke. And it's very sad. She was 54 years old. Apparently, she died from complications due to diabetes. My dad has got diabetes. So, that I've always been, very paranoid about it, but diabetes generally strikes home for me a little bit. I think it was a combination of diabetes related issues and heart problems, heart complications. But 54 years old is way too young of an age to pass away. I know you've lived a few years by the time you've hit that 5-decade mark, but at the same time, she should have had at least another 20 years ahead of her. So not sure the circumstances that led to her passing away, but I do want to express my condolences to close friends, family, and to her husband, John Listen. As I said, in 2025, we have lost way too many good people too young. Eric from Cobalt, another example. I mean, he was 42, I believe, when he passed away. Cobalt, in my view, easily one of the best black metal bands that the US ever produced. 4 records that they released: War Metal, Eater of Birds, and then particularly Gin and Slow Forever. Some of the best US black metal of all time, hands down. So rest in peace, Eric Wonder. Again, a guy taken from us way, way too soon. Okay, moving on. Let's listen to some music now. We've got Dwelling Below, yet another band added to the Transcending Obscurity roster. Death Doomers Dwelling Below have revealed Unfolding Universe, the first preview tune that'll be part of their next studio record, Wearisome Guardian. Details of the latter to be disclosed in the near future. Here's a fun fact for you about Dwelling Below. Their drummer, Jared Moran, who's also their vocalist, is in, from what I can, literally just at first glance on Metal Archives, it looks like he's a member of about 40 bands. I have literally never ever seen somebody's current bands or like active bands listed like to that degree. I mean, you just go through this list. And I'm literally just grabbing random names here. Hollowed Idols, Irradiated Marrow, Ishmura, Kudzu, Louching, Maggot Crown, Morg Walker, Mountain of the Beard, Mouth of Seda, Nightcall, Obsidian Hooves, Acculst, Out of the Mouth of Graves, Paranoid Schizophrenia. I mean, these are, not full-bore bands, I'm sure, but certainly projects that he's involved in. So, yeah, again, we were talking about Kirk being busy. Jared Moran makes Kirk look like a fucking slacker. As for the song, it's all right. This kind of music, I think, if I immediately draw some comparisons, Reeking Aura, that put out their album on Profound Law back in 2023, had Big Will from Reeking Aura on the show alongside Rick Habib, and I really like those guys a lot. But that Blood and Bone Meal record that they put out on Profound Law Records, I mean, that was a similar style to this, but they did it a million times better. I think their riffs just bit that little bit harder, a bit more memorable. This is kind of built around what I think is a very nondescript riff. And then on top of that, you've got a drummer who's clearly extremely capable, but it sounds as though he's playing with a bass pedal made out of fucking Lego. That's how it sounds coming through these headphones. Just doesn't cut the mustard. So it's not overall, the song isn't bad. The first 2 minutes we listened to, not bad, but it's just very nondescript. And unfortunately, I've made this comment before, but that to me is a hallmark of a lot of what Transcending Obscurity signs. They seem to go after, old Cornell seems to go after these kind of 5.5, 6 out of 10 bands that, they're going to have their audience, but in an overcrowded scene where there is new music coming out by the fuckload every single weekend, I just don't see myself having any desire to necessarily go back and listen to Dwelling Below for whatever reason. If I wanted to, I'd listen to Reeking Aura. I listened to Incantation, which basically this is a carbon copy of, in my view. So yeah, what I will say, if I had to say something positive, nice album cover. Even though nowadays you dread saying it, lest somehow someone figures out that it's an AI cover. I mean, some of them are very obvious, but some of them are not. And if you do say it, and it did turn out to be an AI cover, fucking people shit themselves and act like you're the biggest poser on the face of the earth. All right, Omnium Gatherum reveal new single from upcoming album. Finnish melodic death metal band Omnium Gatherum have released their latest single called My Pain, taken from their forthcoming album, May the Bridges We Burn Light the Way. The band's 10th studio album is set to drop on November the 7th via Century Media Records. An official music video for the track, directed by Hari Haino, is available now to watch below. I will give you my opinion on what I've just heard in just a second, but let's read Jukka Pelkonen, the band's vocalist. He's left a couple of comments here so we can understand the song in more detail first. My Pain is a story about the toughness one faces when adversary appears. It's about the rising emotions of anger, fear, and apprehension. Basically, the time fight or flight mode shows its face. It is common amongst street gangs and soldiers, but also between friends, lovers, and amongst family ties. It is a story of conquering these feelings and becoming your own master. Interesting that he would use the word toughness, because that is severely lacking from this complete and utter crap. I don't understand how this sort of thing can even be called death metal. You know, if I take Morbid Angel, Deicide, Werewolves, Cannibal Corpse, I mean, we mentioned Funerus earlier, Funerus, Obituary, Bolt Thrower. Let's talk about some more modern stuff, Grave Miasma. If we take top tier, rough and tough death metal and compare it to this complete and utter crap, they have nothing in common. Zero. And I know exactly the kind of people who would like a band like Omnium Gatherum and who would think that the fucking fretboard wanking is amazing and the keyboard is cool and they'd sing along and dance to the chorus. They are the sort of people that I go out of my way to not be friends with. So this gets a massive thumbs down. Total, complete, utter dog shit. Moving swiftly along, Despised Icon have released a new track. Let's answer a question before we dig into that one. We got a question here from _, and I believe this is how it's pronounced. If not, my apologies. _Janelle has asked, how do you cope with being a husband, a podcast maker, a music lover, and being social? Militant management of my time is the short answer to that question. I will now explain. If you don't want to hear the rest of the explanation, skip ahead by about 2 minutes. Basically, I wake up at 5 in the morning. Let's take today as an example. Got up at 5, made a coffee, got back into bed, read the news for half an hour, off to the gym for an hour, back here, recorded the news rant. I'm going to work straight after that for about 9-10 hours. When that's done, I will be editing together, and first I'll record all the intros and segues and whatnot for the show. I'll then edit together everything, export, upload, schedule all of the social media posts that'll go along with episode 284 in bed, probably by about 11:30, depending on when that's all done. Tomorrow, I wake up at 5. I will be driving to Cambridge for the day for a customer workshop. Back here probably for 8-9 o'clock. Wednesday, wake up at 5, off to the gym. Back here, 9 to 10 hours worth of work. Then I'm talking to Swartolv. I'm recording basically the epilogue of the Gehenna episode that I'm doing, that you guys will see in about probably, I'd say, 2 weeks' time. And then if we have the time, which is potentially unlikely, because when he and I talk, we talk for fucking hours. But if we have the time, I'll spend an hour drinking a glass of wine with my wife, watching a TV show. Like everything that I do, even idle time, is intentional. So, when it comes to being a husband, I do try and spend at least an hour a day either having dinner with my wife or, sharing a glass of wine, watching a TV show. For those interested, right now the TV show we're watching, and I'm going through this for the 5th time, is Mad Men. Right after that, we'll be watching Squid Game Season 3. Right after that, we'll be watching Alien Earth, of which I've seen some very positive reviews. But yeah, every single thing that I do, every bit of my time is accounted for in the sense that there's a purpose to it. I don't just sit in my chair and fucking stare out the window. Like I get the impression an awful lot of people do. I do that when I'm on holiday, and no other time will that ever be. Is that ever tolerated? And when I say I'm on holiday, it's normally my December holiday when I'm away in South Africa, which is why that's so important to me. I need that time to decompress and to de-stress, because all of this shit mounts up, and it can be quite fucking tiring. By the way, that racket in the background is the coffee machine doing its rinse cycle. So if it's coming through the microphone, my apologies. That's basically it. I'll tell you something. You talk about being social. I am social. But what I would say is, if it's not at a festival or at a show, or I've specifically made plans with some friends or whatever the case may be, I don't do shit like go to the pub, go to bars, go to clubs, and that sort of shit. I don't party. And if you remove that from the equation, you will be amazed by how much money you save, because you're not squandering it on fucking stupid bullshit all the time. And B, you'll be astonished by how much more productive you can be because you have so much more time. So that would be my my advice to anybody saying, how do I make more time for the things that I want to do? Cut out anything like that, because it is a complete and utter fucking waste of your time. Next question from the mighty Drugoth. He asks, Abath solo band or Immortal without Abath? That is an interesting question, because I always, whenever I'm asked these questions, I rely on first instinct. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when, with the first answer that pops into my mind, because that's the answer clearly, that's how you feel. Now, I really do like the non-Abath Immortal albums. I think Northern Chaos Guards is very good. I think War Against All is excellent. I actually like those more than I enjoy Abath's solo albums. But very weirdly, the question that pops, or the answer that pops into my mind first, is Abath. Why that is, I don't know. I mean, I did quite like Dread Reaver, their previous Abath record, and I like the previous one as well. I mean, actually, all three I've liked. The self-titled 2016 album, Outstrider, I liked. Dread Reaver, I liked. What I would say too is, I really am very, very happy to see him on stage performing at a high level again. And if I take Beyond the Gates as an example, it is a really high level. The dude had some very public problems, issues with alcohol. Where he's at with that, I don't know. It certainly looks like he's much healthier. He looks like he's in decent shape in terms of being match fit, being on that stage, being an absolute fucking animal. He was great. He really, really was good. And, he was playing all those old Immortal songs as well, which was fucking cool. There is always going to be a part of me that hopes that he and Demonaz can set their differences aside and get back to being immortal. I think that they're one of those collectives that someone should just tell them. I'm sure they have, but if not, someone should tell them, you guys are so much better together than you are apart, certainly from a recording perspective. But I don't know if that'll ever happen. So at least if Abath is playing those old songs, doing it in his style with his voice, you still get to hear them. And I would urge anybody who has the opportunity to hear those songs, if you can see him perform anywhere, make sure that you don't miss that. So, Drugoth, to answer your question, going on that principle of what pops into my mind first, Abath. As much as I think the Immortal albums without Abath are actually better than the ones that he did solo. Okay, on to some more music. Now, Despised Icon is a band I am going to guess several of the Legion, unfortunately, probably will despise. I have mentioned many times before that I like these guys. I know that they get lumped in with a deathcore set, which I fucking hate. But yes, they are assuredly a deathcore band, but they have brought in a lot of those old school Suffocation, Pyrexia influences into their sound, especially from the Ills of Modern Man, which came out in 2007 onwards. They bring in a fair bit of the core as well. So, hardcore gang vocals. I think that the way they deploy that in their sound works really, really well. And then they also have one of my favorite things, which is two vocalists. And on stage, the dynamic between Alex Arian and Steve Marat, I think is how I pronounce his surname, is fucking awesome. I love it. I saw these guys opening for Unearth way back. I think this was like 2008, maybe 2009. Didn't know them at all. Only went to the show because someone invited me, and it put me on the guest list. And I saw them play, and they did a song off the Healing Process, which is their 2005 album called Retina. And there's a break towards the end of the song, which was just fucking astounding. You will, I don't give a shit whether you only listen to the Burzum demos. If you hear that, if you see it live, you're coming out of mosh retirement. It is going to be very hard to remain in mosh retirement when you hear that break when they do it live. They just really impressed me, and since then I've really liked their music. So with that preamble out the way, Canadian deathcore outfit Despised Icon are making their long-awaited return after 6 years with a new album, Shadow Work, set for release on October the 31st via Nuclear Blast Records. The band has just released the album's lead single called Over My Dead Body, featuring guest vocals from Matt Honeycutt of Kublai Khan. Check out the music video below. I might be in the minority on this one, at least in these circles, in the Legion circles, but I fucking love that. Did not enjoy their previous album, Purgatory, that came out in 2019. I thought that was a disappointment to me. Beast, that came out in 2016, different story. Really like that. Really like Day of Mourning from 2009. But this to me sounds like they're back on track. Actually, a little less of the death metal influences and way more of the core. I think including Matt Honeycutt as a third vocalist was a master stroke. I like that little break right before they introduce him. He delivers his part exceptionally well. I think actually in terms of vocalists, it is Alex who stands out, especially when he says laser focused while you're talking your shit. I thought that was a fucking really killer line. But between the groove, between the hardcore elements, the gang vocals, the overall execution of this, I think it's fucking great. And I mean, you guys know I barely have a positive word to say about deathcore. So if I like this, then I don't know, maybe a couple of other folks might enjoy it as well, who aren't necessarily normally into that style of music. I mean, my problem with a lot of deathcore is it all sounds the fucking same. And Despised Icon, whatever else you want to say about them, they are unique. So for me, I'm going to give this a top notch. Okay, moving on. Amorphous deliver a new single called Dancing Shadow. Got to be honest with you, I think we're going to give that one a little skip because we listened to the first single. I didn't enjoy that. Second one, listen to that when I had the great outlaw Mike Scondado co-hosting the news rant with me, and I didn't enjoy that either. I've no reason to believe that I'm going to like Dancing Shadow. So moving on to Author and Punisher, there's a 7th Author and Punisher LP coming in November. Now, This is a band that is very, very highly thought of by an awful lot of people that I know. Many people have encouraged me to check this out. And for whatever reason, I've just never quite had the inclination to do so. Whatever I've heard by Author and Punisher, I've also not been particularly blown away by. I keep in my mind getting them confused with Zeal and Ardor, and neither of those bands. I mean, Zeal and Ardor had a couple of really good songs on the last few records they did, but overall, again, I don't hold them in as high esteem as a lot of people do, is what I'm saying. But anyway, it says here, October the 3rd, 2025, will see the release of Author and Punisher's next full-length installment entitled Nocturnal Birding. What the fuck is Nocturnal Birding? The 8-piece music output was recorded at K Street Studios and at Tesla Manaf Studio. Will Putney took over the mixing and mastering process to taste a piece of what to expect. Give a listen to the first single, Titanus. Well, paint my face and call me Susan. That's actually pretty fucking good. Sonically, it is, I mean, really, really well recorded. Fucking kudos to whoever was twiddling the knobs over at K Street Recordings and Tesla Manaf Studio. I mean, shout out to Will Putney for whatever role he played in just how the actual audio of the song sounds like, coming through mighty clean and mighty powerful on these fancy Focal Batiste headphones that I'm listening to the music on at the moment. These are the cans, by the way, that I always use. I've mentioned it before on the news rant, but somebody in the comments again dropped a question saying, what headphones do you use? What headphones do you recommend? If you can afford them, I don't personally think there are better Bluetooth headphones than these. They have a built-in DAC, so you can listen to them wired using USB, switch on the DAC, and it can play high-res, lossless music. So if you're using Tidal or Qobuz, you can get really, really big step up in music quality. But they work really, really well as Bluetooth headphones as well. The other thing that's fucking cool about them is they have an app that basically tests your hearing and then accommodates the sound to adapt to wherever you've got drop-offs in your hearing, which is fucking wild. Like, I've done it. It's on my app, and again, makes a massive difference. So just that as a side note. If you're looking for a decent pair of premium headphones, don't buy Bose, don't buy Sony, don't waste your money especially don't waste your money on fucking Beats. Get yourself Focal Batiste. You can go on eBay. You're in the UK. I got this pair for £450 on eBay. You can, if you buy it brand new, I think it's $6.99, or wait until Black Friday. You'll probably be able to get a deal with, maybe save $100 or $150. But it's an investment that you will not regret. Trust me. Back to Author and Punisher, I like that very much. Like I said, it's one of these bands I've had a lot of people recommend to me. Never really spent much time listening to them, but October the 3rd, I might be marking that down on my calendar. I think that's going to get a thumbs up. Lord of the Lost, dropping a new song called Bizarre. I mean, it again sounds like something I'd sooner take a fucking drill and stick it in my kneecaps and hit that power button than listen to that fucking shit song. Aviana, the Swedes, Aviana. Let's give this a listen. Although I'll tell you something right now, with the fucking Sleep Token rip-off look that they're going for here, I'm expecting something completely dreadful. But I am curious. The Swedes Aviana are presenting a music video for Evermore, their latest single, produced by Aviana and Wojciech Pakesny, mixed and mastered by Ludwig Otterson at Silver Sun Studios. Let's give this one a whirl, my friends.
Eagerly I wish to the morrow. For my books as their cease of sorrow. And sorrow for the loss of the more. For the rare and green and maiden whom the angels name Eleanor. Nameless here. Forevermore.
Right, that's where I'm going to have to hit the stop button. I mean, I'll give them this. I'd sooner listen to this than Sleep Token. But when they start with that singing, that's where they lose me. I mean, this is just not music aimed at me. I'd be pretty confident in saying it's also not aimed at any member of the Legion. By the way, if you see me looking down every so often, it's because I'm keeping an eye on the ring cam. I'm expecting a wine delivery to be coming shortly, and these fucking idiots from DPD, the courier company, do not know how to ring a goddamn doorbell, so I always have to keep an eye so that I don't end up missing it. I just want to say, just to set the record straight, the wine that I took to Gaahl is fucking tier 1 red wine. I mean, South African red wine, and I don't want to. I know some of you may have fallen asleep at the start of that conversation. I fucking loved it. I mean, I love talking about wine, but I don't want to go down the wine talk too much again. But South African red wine, it does have the subtlety of a kick in the face. So it's not to everybody's liking. Cabernet Sauvignon in particular, but the wine that I brought him, that is my favorite wine. It's made by a winery called De La Graaf. They're based in on the Cape Winelands. Beautiful place. If you ever go to Cape Town and you want to spend, and you've got a bit of money because it's fucking expensive even by South African standards, you want to spend a nice day with a wife. You go to De La Graaf. Incredible wine tasting, amazing food, beautiful scenery. The particular bottle that I brought for him was something called Botmas Kop, which is kind of around the midway of their range. But it's my favorite of the wines that they make. I really love it. And I won't lie, I was looking at that bottle when we were sat talking, and it was about halfway down, and I knew that the rest of that bottle may potentially be going down the drain. It hurt my heart. I nearly felt like going, if you're not going to finish that, I'm taking it back with me. But no, I thought better of it. And the thing is, wine is a very personal thing. People like what they like. That wine that I tried, that he had, the natural wine, was quite nice as well. But just as an overall comment on my meeting with Gaahl, what a pleasant surprise. I saw a side to him I honestly didn't think existed. Very good humored. We also spoke a little to his partner Robin beforehand. Really nice guy. We actually spoke a bit afterwards, and I wish I had a bit more time to spend with him and take a look through the gallery and see everything that was on offer there. Right, you might have heard the knock on the door there as I kind of abruptly cut myself off. The wine delivery just came, as right as I was talking about it. Anyway, just getting back to meeting with Gaahl. Yeah, what a delightfully interesting, pleasant guy to be around. I always knew being with him in person, sitting down, talking face to face would be a different experience, and it was. Really nice guy. So was Robin, his partner. You know, I'm not sure that he would ever listen to this, but if he is, just want to say again, you know, thank you very much for your time. It was genuinely one of the highlights of visiting Bergen, and I hope at some point down the road that we will do it again. What I definitely think with him, I get the same impression from Blasphemer, and I got the same impression going back years and years when I first spoke, or not first, the only time I spoke to Glenn Danzig. They're just dudes that I think they've had so many fucking idiotic questions asked of them by members of the press, members of the media, that they have a natural wariness when they go into interviews because I think they're not sure what to expect. And I don't regard myself as a journalist at all. You know, for me, it's just about sitting down, having that face-to-face conversation, you know, with another man or another woman, and you know, seeing what happens. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. Anyway, if you know the wine stuff bugged you, hopefully you managed to skip past that. I think when I do the timestamps, I might do like Gaahl and I talk wine, right? Gaahl and I get down to talking about serious business. Okay, moving on to some more music. Revocation drop a new single to promote their upcoming studio release, New Gods, New Masters. Revocation offer in listening a brand new single, Sarcophagi of the Soul. The accompanying video clip was directed by the great Vince Edwards.
Enraptured by the sight of my familiar, the distorted image stares back with eyes void vibrant. Its laughter echoes from within the mirror. Desire for perfection, demanding validation, double-bombing my addiction. Contradiction. It's mockery, tormenting me. Who can be trusted in this world of make-believe? Desperate to be free from reality, lost inside a maze of my asthmatic fantasy.
All right, let's pause it there. Not a bad song. One of the problems I've always had with Revocation is when it comes to riff writing, they are very verbose. You know, and let's use the analogy of, and I get this an awful lot in my day job. There are some people where you ask them a question and what should be a 20-second answer turns into a 3-minute monologue. The way that Revocation write riffs, and this is why I say they're verbose riff writers, they try to shove too many ideas into a very short space of time. And they would be far more effective trying to do more with less. This song to me is a great example. The actual song, or the actual, let's start with the music video. The music video itself is pretty good. It says here, frontman Dave Davidson comments of the new song. Sarcophagi of the Soul is about our addiction to technology, primarily our phones. We use these devices to create idealized avatars to present to the world, when in reality nothing is ever as perfect as it seems. As we continue to feed our vanity, the lines start to blur between our identities and the false narratives we create as these digital twins slowly begin to usurp our lives. The music video for this track features the incredible artwork of Tony Girardi Brown, who created an entire graphic novel as an accompaniment to the new album. The artwork for this comic book is truly amazing, so we wanted to give our fans a sneak peek before it gets released alongside the record. Music video, I like the comic idea, I like the style of the music video, think that works, so tick in the box for that. Production, tick in the box for that. Revocation are a band that are at the level now where their production is not going to suck. The overall performances, I mean, technically sounds fucking excellent. And around that 1 minute 35-second mark, we're entering territory that I like. And why? Because that's where Revocation simplify things a little bit. And it becomes, we focus a bit more on groove, we focus on simplification. I've mentioned this a couple of times, and you can hear it as a comment on quite a few upcoming episodes that I've done. There was something about the simplicity of metal riffing in the mid 80s, like early to mid 80s, 1983 to 1986, 87, that was just fucking magical. The Headless Children by Wasp, Halloween by King Diamond, just tons and tons of those bands. They were doing these 4 to 5 note riffs, but it just was so fucking badass and filled with testosterone, real man's metal. And I just loved it. And I think that a lot of these technical bands could listen or should go back, listen to some of that and take a page out of their book. It's fine to be technical. We all know you can play your instruments, but not when it comes at the expense of the aggression and the intensity of the song. That would be my view. So I'm not hating it, but I'm not blown away by it, is my final verdict on that new Revocation single. And that's pretty consistent with how I felt about most of what they've put out. Right, let's get on to a question once again. I think we've only done 2 so far. Just one thing to say about the questions. I normally put out a call on Instagram on a Friday or Saturday, depending on when I'm going to record this. And I say, if you got your questions, get them in. I'll answer them on the News Rant. But feel free, if you're listening to the News Rant, or you can leave a comment on Spotify, or you can leave a comment on YouTube, or you can send me an email. Into the necrosphere@gmail.com. If there's anything you want me to talk about on the News Rant, I don't give a fuck what it is. Feel free to put that to paper, or put that in an email and send it to me. Kelu666 has asked a question. Would you host a special Into the Necrosphere with an audience like the events that you do at festivals? Yes, absolutely. Cheyenne and I have been talking about doing live podcasts for a little while now, inspired by Gavin from the Damnation Festival. And he, of course, does the Two Promoters, One podcast, did a couple of live shows across the UK. Those did extremely well. I think Cheyenne and I actually have an idea of where we would like to do it. There is a venue in Camden Town here in the UK where, we think we could do something pretty cool. So good thing, Kelu, that you actually remind me of it again, because I should drop him a note and see whether we're going to make that happen this side of 2025. I would definitely be up for it. So the short answer is yes. If the time permitted, the venue was there, we thought there was an audience, 1,000% would we do a live Into the Necrosphere. Jason Psychroptic has asked, why weren't you at the Psychroptic show in London last week? That, of course, was because I was at Beyond the Gates. But I would not have missed seeing Jason in person otherwise, and I certainly wouldn't miss seeing Psychroptic play otherwise. And I know that their show would have been absolutely killer. Grind Your Mind 77 asks, DDP, so Dricus du Plessis for non-MMA fans. Dricus du Plessis versus Chimaev is going to be either a wipeout or a war. Can DDP do it? Now, Chimaev is seen very much as the fucking Grim Reaper of the UFC right now. His last 5 fights, He more or less obliterated everybody that he was fighting against. If we look at the last three in particular, most recent fight was Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker himself, complete and utter ninja. He got destroyed. Kamaru Usman, former welterweight champion, did not last, or he did last the distance, but his face didn't last against Chimaev. And then Kevin Holland lost by submission back at UFC 279 to Chimaev. So this dude is fucking serious. And he is also Russian, which, adds at least 40% worth of toughness. I mean, it's just one of those things when it comes to Russians and the way that they train when it comes to combat sports. They are just cut from different cloth to many other men, which is why they are so successful. Going all the way back to Fedor Emelianenko, they've always been successful in mixed martial arts. Dricus du Plessis' last three fights, 2 bouts against Sean Strickland, one that he won by split decision, one that he won, I think, by decision. Both great battles. And then you had the fight where he submitted Israel Adesanya. Now, I said Chimaev is the betting favorite. If I hadn't said it, I'm just going to repeat it again. He's the betting favorite. Here's why I would bet on Dricus du Plessis. Even if I'm going to try my very best to remove my my national identity from this, and the fact that I'm also South African, and naturally I'm going to root for the bloke. But there is something in the South African psyche that when we are counted down, when we are underdogs, our sports team, and actually, frankly, this isn't just true of sports, this is true of everything in life, but particularly our sports teams, they always find 2 or 3 extra gears, and you will see performances from them that you did not think was possible. If you look at our rugby team, our rugby team's best performances over the last 3 decades, going all the way back to the Rugby World Cup win of 1995, those came because we were counted out, and those came because we were the underdogs at the time. The fact that Dricus is the underdog going into this fight, the fact that he was so confident about asking for the fight, like he's not ducked this bloke. He's been asking for the fight right after the Sean Strickland fight. He said, I want to fight Chimaev next. That to me suggests that he is going to win, and that actually, if you want to make a little bit of cash, it's worth putting money on him. I might be completely wrong. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I will post the photos, the receipts to prove it. But had he gone into this fight as the favorite, I would have bet on Chimaev. The fact that he's going on in as the underdog makes me think that he's going to win for the reason I've just explained now. Zero scientific about it, of course. It is just a hunch, but it is a hunch that I'm reasonably confident in. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I mean, Chimaev is a fucking absolute savage. One of the biggest savages in mixed martial arts in 2025. But Dricus du Plessis is no slouch either. To beat Sean Strickland twice and Israel Adesanya, 2 of the most fearsome middleweight combatants of the last decade, you need to have a little something about you. Right, moving on back to some music. Belphegor debut Sanctus Diaboli Confidemus single. Saw a lot of people on Is It Sketch double checking to see with their communist friends whether it's okay to listen to Belphegor. The announcement of this single coming out, experienced black death metal formation Belphegor is premiering a brand new single/video, Sanctus Diaboli Confidemus. The latter was mixed and mastered by Tew Madsen at Anfarm Studio. Looks like it's off the album of the same name. The album cover seems to feature some sort of goat lord holding a teacup goat, kind of like Paris Hilton if she were a Satanist. But yeah, I mean, not bad, not a bad album cover, but I didn't really see the point to it. That being said, Belphegor, I wouldn't say I've had a love-hate relationship with them. I would describe my relationship to Belphegor's music as I've liked many Belphegor songs. I have never loved any Belphegor songs. I don't think I've loved a single record that they've done where I've gone, fucking, this is incredible, high contender for the year's best. I've never felt like that about any Belphegor record. But who knows? Maybe Sanctus Diaboli Confidemus changes my mind. Let's hear what it sounds like. I don't hate it. I think there are some nice atmospheric touches to the song. Those, little sort of faint smatterings of keyboards work really well. Remind me a little bit of Rotten Christ. There's sort of a ritualistic vibe to the way that the vocals were recorded as well. There's kind of a sort of a hint of chanting that goes into the vocal lines, which I like. Nice production. Music video isn't bad either. I was wrong, by the way, having just taken a quick look at Metal Archives. Doesn't look like Sanctus Diaboli Confidimus is going to be an album. They haven't made any announcements about an album yet. This is just listed as a single. So again, I might be wrong, but the fact that they're not mentioning anything else here, I don't know, maybe Belphegor are just testing the waters to see if anybody is still interested in listening to them after The Devils that came out in 2022. Although that album was quite well received. But again, this is much like Revocation. Although if I compared the two directly, I'd say I like this a bit more than I like Revocation. It's not blowing me away, but it's not unlistenable either. I'm not going to go into a profanity laced rant about how big of a load of garbage I think it is, because that is simply not true. Let's do one more song, and then let's head over to Blabbermouth and see what there is to see over there. Innumerable Forms, Blotted Inside track unleashed. In the wake of their new album release, Pain Effulgence, Death Metal Unity Innumerable Forms offer in listening another new track in preview titled Blotted Inside. They are, of course, on Profound Law Records, a label that, in my view, hits far more often than it misses. Let's hear what this one sounds like. Fucking tastic. If I compare this to Dwelling Below that we listened to at the beginning of the news rant, this absolutely beats 9 yards worth of fucking dog mess out of that. Let's start with the main riff. Sounds sinister and evil. Those vocals have that cavernous, almost kind of grave miasma kind of feel to them. I absolutely love that. It's got that. I mean, the production reminds me a little bit actually of Reeking Aura, in that it has this sort of dry but sort of very black, very bleak feel to it. And then we end up with those dive bombs that we just had with the guitars there that amps up the evil no end. Top notch, without a shadow of a doubt. This is going to be one to look forward to for fucking sure. Great work. And also, as a side note, Innumerable Forms is one of the best band names I've heard in a while. I've got to agree with J-Dog on this. If a band has more than 3 words in their name, there is a very, very good chance they are deplorable trash. On that scintillating note, let's head over to the Democrats' Guide to Rock Music, Blabbermouth. Let's see what there is to see there as we bring this one home. All right, we've got Venom performing Black Sabbath medley in honor of Ozzy Osbourne. Let's give this one a quick check. Venom paid tribute to Ozzy Osbourne by playing a medley of Black Sabbath's Children of the Grave and Symptom of the Universe on Saturday, August the 9th at the Helsinki Metal Festival in Nordis, Helsinki, Finland. Fan-filmed video of the performance can be seen below. Let's take a quick gander. That is not bad. As a matter of fact, let me just come right out and say this. That is better than the Lamb of God cover of Children of the Grave that they performed at Back to the Beginning. And as a matter of fact, I'm sitting here thinking right now, why on earth were Venom not invited? I mean, we could probably take a guess as to the reason, but I think they could have added a lot of value to the day. Yeah, very cool. Like that. It's a shame that they're not doing the song Black Sabbath. I think actually Venom could do that really, really well. But a lot of bands don't seem to be all that keen to take on that song. Maybe, again, as I've said previously, Typo Negative did such an incredible cover of it. Everyone else just listens to it and goes, "Fuck that! I'm not even going to attempt to do it." Behemoth's Nurgle is putting the finishing touches on 4th Me and That Man album, another of his overrated loads of fucking drivel that he releases. Like those Me and That Man albums, they weren't dreadful, but seriously, if why would you listen to that when you can listen to Woven Hand? That's my question. Or a fucking myriad other bands that do that kind of music a million times better, Rome being one of them. What else have we got here? Despised Icon, we already spoke about that. Crowbar's Kirk Winstein performs while seated at US tour kickoff. Didn't read about that, and not sure why that happened. Earlier this week, Crowbar frontman Kirk Winstein revealed that he would be sitting down during the early part of the trek, which will wrap up on August the 31st in Pensacola, Florida, due to what he described as either a bad sciatica flare-up or potentially a ruptured disc in his lower spine. He said, in part, "I don't call in sick. I'm there to give you all 100% and please the fans as best I can. So I'm probably going to have to start this tour sitting down." Good for him. He's 60 years old, which, the dude he's getting on in years. Apparently he's got a cane and he's got a walker. I've never had this kind of pain in my life. Anyways, I do hope that he gets that sorted out and seen to. I don't know whether he needs to get them stem cells or what he's going to get to be able to fix that. I follow him on social media, and I have noticed over the last 18 months he's been back in the gym working hard. He looks to be in really good shape for a guy of 60. So whatever that is, I sure hope it's short-lived. Chuck Schuldiner, fully authorized biography of the legendary Death frontman coming this fall. Curious as to who may have written that. Decibel Books proudly presents Born Human, the life and music of Death's Chuck Schuldiner, the fully authorized biography of the legendary Death frontman, offering a balanced and unprecedented look into his life and career. Born Human, authored by accomplished journalist David Gahika. is that how you pronounce it? Who also did the Scott Burns sessions, A Life in Death Metal, 1987 to 1997, Turned Inside Out, the official story of Obituary, features exclusive interviews, contributions, stunning new Ed Repka cover art, and previously unreleased hand-selected photographs from those who knew Chuck best. Born Newman brings life to the dramatic story of the man who blazed an iconic path in metal music, laying the foundation for generations to come. That might be quite interesting. I have checked out the Scott Morris book and really, really enjoyed that. So, yeah, that's one I'll be checking out. Maybe, I mean, I don't know when it's coming out. I should probably have looked at that. But maybe that's one to take with me when I go on holiday in December. Have they said anything about the release date? Yeah. No, you can pre-order now. Don't know when it's going to be available. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. Take that back. Both have an expected shipping date in November. So perfect. I will be taking that with me to South Africa in December. And by the way, if it's coming across like I'm counting down the fucking minutes to that holiday kicking off, that is because I most definitely am. Pantera's Phil Anselmo and Charlie Benante talk 50th anniversary of Jaws. It's not just a horror movie. Let's finish up on this one. I recently went back and watched Jaws with my daughter and really loved it. There was a period of time where I had, for some bizarre reason, I convinced myself that I didn't like the movie. It was partly because of the response to Jaws, or immediately in the wake of Jaws' release, there was an uptick in the number of great whites being killed. And I've always been quite passionate about shark conservation. And so that just always stuck with me for whatever reason. But going back, rewatching the movie, I immediately gave myself a fucking slap back into coherence. And I was like, this is a fucking fantastic, timeless classic. And it is so for a reason. So let's hear what old Charlie and Philip Anselmo had to say.
You, when you were like 9, 10 years old, like, did it have an effect on you?
Well, I was 9, so anytime a horror movie would come out, it would depend on the rating or whether I could see it or not. And then Jaws had this massive reputation. The commercials were practically famous because of the soundtrack. Every kid in school was talking about it. All your friends are talking about it. Some friends got to see it before other friends. So I was late in that regard because I had a bunch of friends who did see it and raved about it and built the horror mystique up a whole lot, which I love that. I love that kind of young-minded hype over a horror film. I liked it. And then when I did finally see the movie, not that much longer later, I loved it, because it's not just a horror movie. It's a freaking, it's an action film. It's a well-rounded, who did Spielberg? It's a fucking Spielberg movie. So you fall in love with all the characters, you identify with people, and then there's the obvious, the shark attacks and
suspense.
But like just not to go too far off. Yeah, a lot of suspense.
Okay, we'll pause there. You can go back and check out that full interview on a YouTube channel called The Daily Jaws. There's about an hour's worth with Charlie Benante, and then there's about 6-7 minutes of Phil and Charlie sitting talking about the movie. Nice to hear Phil sounding really lucid. If you checked out any of these interviews, going back to like the early to mid 2000s, there was this very slow, deliberate drawl from him. It sounded like he was falling asleep. Yeah, nice to hear that he sounds like he's he's bright and up and going again as well. But he said it's not a horror movie. It's not just a horror movie. It's an action movie. I think the magic of Jaws is it's not just a horror movie. It's an experience. It truly is. I don't think that it is quite as timeless as The Exorcist. For me, The Exorcist, when it comes to all-time greats, as far as horror is concerned, nothing will ever match that movie. But Jaws is right up there, no question about it. And if you haven't yet listened to it, make sure that you go back and listen to the recent reviews, the summer Jaws extravaganza that they've done on Necromaniacs. Mike Scandato and Mike Hill did a really cool discussion of Jaws 2, and Jaws 3. The three of them are getting back together. So, obviously the third being Professor Jeff Kashid. They're going to be getting together, and they're going to be doing perhaps the greatest Jaws of them all, Jaws 4, The Revenge. Which I'm talking complete not to shit about the movie, of course, but yeah, they're going to be doing that, and no doubt that's going to be hilarious. All right, friends, I'm going to wrap up on that note. I want to say a huge thank you to Gaahl for his time, a huge thank you to his partner Robin for being so inviting and accommodating of us on a Friday night when we showed up. I also want to say thank you very much to every member of the Legion for listening all the way to the end. If you've done so, I will be back next week with Matt McNerney from Hex Vessel. Fun episode, that one. A little bit of a shorter interview because we were running on a tight schedule. He needed to catch the bus to take him back to the airport, but we had a good chat, and I think you guys are going to enjoy that one. And then the week after, the rebirth of Swarthalven Gehenna. Cannot fucking wait to share that with you guys. We are going to finish off the show in the spirit of the episode with another Gaalsweird track. This one taken off the debut Gaalsweird album, Ghosts Invited, I should say. Ek Erelar, the opening track, a total masterpiece. And I'm also going to say to every single one of you, whatever it is that you are doing and wherever it is that you are, my friends, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.